I'm calling this meeting to order, and if we can start with the Pledge of Allegiance. Sir, can you lead us? Only look at you.
Put your right hand over your heart. I pledge allegiance
to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Nice job. That takes us to item 2, roll call. Can we do roll call, please?
Director Avila.
Here.
Director Tennant.
Here.
Director O'Brien. Here. Vice Chair Freeman. Here. Chair Grant.
Here. Thank you. That takes us to item 3, agenda review.
Chair, staff has no recommended changes.
Any member of the board wish to review the agenda? Okay. Do we need to vote on that?
No.
No. That will take us to item 4 for public statements for items that are not on the agenda this evening. Is there anybody? Yes, I see a hand raised. Would you like to approach the podium? Just for clarification for everybody, I also have some speaker cards. Everybody who comes before will have the same, that they'll each get 3 minutes.
I don't know if this was on the agenda or not, but my name is Mark Brooker. You might have seen my letter in the Acorn about the changes at Senior Hills Golf Course, and obviously not too happy about it. And there's a couple of things you might not have taken into consideration. My group, which had the set time as a second group off every Saturday, we showed up. Every week we showed up. The only times we didn't show up is when it was a safety issue. Maybe the winds were blowing extremely hard or it was pouring out rain. And I have no doubt that in these kind of temperatures, when it's 100 degrees, that you will fill that early morning spot. But when it's 38 degrees and we showed up in thermals and jackets and had to wait on a frost delay, all you have to do is miss filling our time just once. Out of the whole year, you miss it just one time and you've lost more money than the $199 you tried to squeeze out of us. And that was only for a chance to get our tee time. It would have probably been easier to swallow if, after being such loyal customers all these years, you said that you were going to charge a $199 fee to keep our set time. Then I think would have been a little better. I mean, a chance to get it. The second thing is the group in front of us every Saturday, they show up and we show up and we play the course in 3.5 hours. Other groups that come in, especially from other areas, now that you've opened it up, to non-residents so far into the future, they are quite normal players of 5+ hour rounds. And once that happens with the first group, the entire day is messed up at the golf course. And if you have groups coming up and they have 11 o'clock tee time and you're telling them at the course, we got an hour and 15-minute delay past your tee time, they may move, and then that's more revenue you've lost. You had a guaranteed sure thing. And I understand you're trying to make money. I'm sure Parks and Recs gets the majority of their money from Senior Hills for their budget. But did you ever discuss, if you're so concerned about that, maybe cutting your salaries and benefits first before you went after your most loyal golfers? That's all.
I do want to say thank you for coming out and speaking tonight. And I won't speak for the entirety of the board. If they want to say anything, I'll let them speak, but I will speak for myself. But I'll say thank you again for coming out this evening. My priority after receiving information from staff was to ensure that our public golf course was fair and equitable to all the individuals who wish to play golf there. And so showing any hint or suggestion of favoritism was concerning, and wanted to make sure that anybody who wanted to golf at any time would have the same opportunity as anyone else to golf at those times. So I will say that was my priority and my focus in how we instituted the new fees and the new program. And if you want to talk about it more with me or any board member, I would encourage, please do reach out. I'm happy to give you my contact information.
I like that.
And I also see, I believe in our audience tonight, yes, Brian Reed, who operates our golf programs. So if you, I will say, I'm not an expert in golf, but I'm happy to talk and listen. But if you want someone who I would say is a professional, a golf professional, in their opinion, I'm sure Brian Reed would also be happy to speak with you.
Sure. I know it's not on the agenda, so we're not going to discuss that.
Yes.
But our salary is up to $500 a month for the position that we hold. And when I say up to, that doesn't mean $500 a month. It could be less. So I don't think that's really going to make much of a dent in the budget. My motivation in changing that was not just the financial part, which doesn't fund a majority of the park district, the golf course, not the entire park district. Part of it was financial. The other part was when I found out that some members of our community could never golf at a particular time because it was always going to be reserved. I just didn't see the fairness in that. And I know we're not going to go back and forth, but did any members of our board have communications with him before that vote? So when we make decisions, it's not the neighborhood council or the city council or park and rec district. We invite you out to our meetings to make sure we get that input from you before we make decisions.
I will just make a comment. I understand where you're coming from because you were loyal and there all the time. Our problem was creating a balance and fair to people that aren't able to get that time. And so we were really faced with a decision on how to allow others that same opportunity.
Well,
to
like
do
many
that.
businesses, many businesses have rewards programs for their most loyal customers.
I'm just telling you where the board was coming from, because we heard from a lot of people who wanted to have those early times too. And I know it's a difficult issue.
Chair Gray?
Yes.
Okay, I'm gonna say something. Yeah, I don't like it when someone likes to include me with where the board was coming from. So I voted in favor of it. I don't think it was the ideal solution. I think everyone knows I think the ideal solution is, and that would be to price rates for rounds at the optimum place where supply equals demand, because then that eliminates the whole problem of who gets favoritism or who gets beneficial tee times. I think that the policy itself, considering we're a public agency, was flawed to begin with in terms of allowing preferential treatment, whether they are, and I have no doubt that you've been a loyal customer. I don't think that policy ever should have existed to begin with, because we do serve the public. However, what I do want to say is that I do appreciate what you're saying, and I'm understanding of what you're saying, because part of the problem of having that policy for such a long time is that good, loyal customers like you kind of came out on the short end of the stick. You had something that grew to be an expectation of yours, and that was taken away, and that's due to no fault of your own. So I always felt that was one of the drawbacks of the policy in the first place. So I just want to make it clear where I stand on that. But I just don't think we ever should have done that to begin with, and I think that's where the problem occurred.
I just want to echo what everyone else said here too. It's a policy that outlived its time, I think, so.
Thank you again for coming out this evening, and my offer stands. If you don't have access to my information, there's some staff here. If you leave your information, I'm also happy to reach out. Are there any other public statements for items not on the agenda this evening? See anybody in the room? Is there anybody on Zoom?
Chair, before we move on, the speaker
Yes.
might want to know that we look over the golf course yearly. So if he has input on those decisions and he talks to you, to come out to that meeting whenever it's on the agenda.
Yeah, absolutely. I know right now it's all perspective, but there's discussion for January and February, revisiting broadly golf fees. But if you have any interest in that, we'll definitely have staff put you on a list to get outreach to whenever we discuss those specific topics.
I see no one on Zoom, Chair.
Thank you. And I'm seeing no one else approach the podium, so I'll assume public statements for items not on the agenda is done for this evening, which will take us to item 5, approval of minutes for the RSRPD Board of Directors meeting of August 2nd, 2023.
I had a correction
Yes.
on page 7 of 8, the second from the bottom paragraph. It's not Randy Roads, it's Rocky Roads.
Oh,
Ah,
got
Yes.
it. Honest mistake.
thank you.
You're right, I think I read correctly.
That's a good catch.
Got it.
Any other amendments or questions from the board?
Not really.
I'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to approve the minutes as amended.
Second,
Can we do a roll call, please?
Director Avila,
Aye.
Director Dennert,
Yes.
Director O'Brien,
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman,
yes.
Chair Gray,
Aye.
and motion carries with a unanimous vote.
Thank you. That will take us to item 6, the consent agenda. Would anybody like to pull payroll to discuss, or otherwise I will entertain a motion?
I'll move approval.
I'll second. Could you do roll call, please?
Director Avila,
Aye.
Director Dennert,
Yes.
Director O'Brien,
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman,
Yes.
Chair Gray,
Aye.
and motion carries with a unanimous vote.
Thank you. That takes us to item 7, presentation of the scheduled items and public hearings. Subpoint A, presentation of certificate of commendation to Scout Jacob Osterhaus for completion of his Eagle Scout project. Is there a staff report?
Yes, Richard Limo, the district's community outreach officer, will provide a staff report.
Good evening, Chair Gray, Honorable Board. It's my great pleasure this evening to present and facilitate a certificate of recognition in recognition of 2 recently completed Eagle Scout projects. The first of which is Jacob Osterhaus. Now, just a little bit of background. Eagle Scout is the highest achievement or rank in the Scouts BSA program, for those of you that are unaware. Since its inception in 1911, only 4% of Scouts have earned this rank after a lengthy review process. Requirements include earning at least 21 merit badges, 14 of which are mandatory for the award. This includes an extensive service project that the Scout plans, organizes, leads, and manages. And that's where Jacob's path crosses with Rancho Simi. He's responsible for a really nice project on Hummingbird Trail. He fundraised for 10 directional posts and trail signs to be placed along Hummingbird Trail. He organized help to dig holes and set posts, cut down 4 large strands of Arundo Donex, and stacked material for later transport by Rancho Simi staff. This project will keep hikers informed and safe on one of the district's most beautiful trails. He's joined this evening by his scout leader, Eric Ramos, and his family. Please help me in congratulating Jacob Osterhaus. Chair Gray, if you can present Jacob with his certificate, and we'll get a photo.
Absolutely.
You finish your paperwork yet? Yeah, just did actually. Hey, congratulations.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
That will take us to item 7B, presentation of certificate of commendation to Scout Bryce, I apologize if I butcher this, Secrist for completion of his Eagle Scout project.
Thank you, Chair Gray. Our second recognition of the evening is for Bryce Seacrest, joined tonight by Scout leader Stuart Seacrest. Bryce helped raise funds for 2 benches and concrete for installation along Tapo Canyon Trail. He helped organize a help party to assemble benches, dig holes, and line up for footings, as well as the final installation of the benches. The finished product will not only give tired hikers a chance to stop and catch their breath, but the vantage point from this location will have everyone stopping to enjoy the view. As you can see from the photos, quite picturesque. Please join me, obviously, in thanking both of our Eagle Scouts, specifically Bryce, for his work on the trail.
Thank you so much. Hi. Thank you so much.
Did you finish your paperwork?
Almost.
Can I get a group shot?
Yeah, absolutely.
Come in. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Chair, I want to thank these Eagle Scouts for their projects. Hummingbird Trail is our most popular trail in St. Valley, drawing people from, I know this is going to be funny to believe, but check YouTube, from throughout the world to hike that trail. And it's been a long complaint that it's difficult to navigate, so I appreciate that, including a bonus of invasive species removal, so thank you for that. But for the second project, it's a personal power when someone comes to you and suggests they're asking about projects, and I find out they want to build a bench, and my favorite place to watch a sunset in the world on that trail. And that picture that you have with the dog underneath the bench, that's adorable. So I would request that our staff do a social media post separately for each scout. The reason for that is in a world where we see bad news every day, it's nice to see the good news too. I need to do this myself, remind myself that every time I see somebody in the news doing something wrong, there's a bunch of people doing things that are right, so it helped remind us of that. And then I also want to thank our staff, because I know helping scouts with their projects takes staff time and resources and energy to get them done right. So thank you to our staff for supporting the scouts and accomplishing the rank of Eagle.
Any other board comments, or I can add my own?
I just want to say, when I look at all of your badges, I know you guys put in a lot of time, and what a benefit you are to have in our community. It's amazing. Thank you. Thank you for all you did.
I just want to say thank you for your projects. And it is impressive to see that fruit salad on your there. Like, wow.
Jacob and Bryce, I'll say congratulations again. I know how hard that is to accomplish. I know it's it oftentimes conflicts with social schedule, and I'm an Eagle Scout myself 12 years ago, and have many friends who submitted, I think, the day before their birthday so that they could officially become an Eagle Scout. So I figured I would just pass along the harassment. I'm sure both of you have heard plenty of it over the years of, have you turned in your paperwork yet? But the only reason I lovingly harass both of you with the question is I know how much of a difference it's made in my life to be able to walk into any room and know, with the experiences I had becoming an Eagle Scout, that I'm equal to any person in that room. No one is better than me, but no one is worse than me, but I can walk in with head held high. So congratulations. Thank you for partnering your project with RSRPD. Long may your project stand, and yeah, be proud of it. So congratulations again. I believe that will take us to item 7C, presentation of the full-time employee of the month for July 2023 to Zen Flores.
Thank you, Chair. Teresa Pennington, the district's Director of Administration, will provide staff's report.
Chair Gray and members of the board, the full-time employee of the month for July 2023 is Zen Flores. Zen is a recreation coordinator in the recreation department. She's been with the district for 9 months, and this is her first Employee of the Month award. The person who nominated Zen stated, although a relatively new member of the Rancho Simi team, Zen has demonstrated excellence from day one. She is hardworking and displays a strong desire to succeed. She quickly learned and adapted to the Rancho Simi process and incorporated her own style and organization, taking pride and ownership over the programs under her purview. Zen jumped into the position with a willingness to do whatever was needed, which at the time was no small feat. She works with a high volume of part-time staff and works to provide collaborative and individual growth opportunities for each of them. One of her staff members had the following to say about her. Over the past few months, the after-school clubs have successfully juggled many moving parts. That wouldn't have been the case if it wasn't for Zen Flores. From our new ELAP program to summer camp planning, she has taken on numerous challenges and exceeded all expectations. She has streamlined every registration process through our website, recreated handbooks, and even helped with the hiring process of new counselors while still taking on her normal daily tasks. Zen makes it a point to always be available to her staff, no matter what her busy job demands of her. She strives to make the after-school club better than ever, and as a result gives the children the best after-school club summer camp experience. She's always willing to help no matter what the task is, and she will do so with a kind-hearted demeanor. She deserves to be the Employee of the Month because she is the unsung hero for the after-school clubs and summer camps. She doesn't see the results of her actions, but there are countless families that benefit because of the job she does daily. Congratulations, Zen.
Hello, I wrote something. Just want to say thank you. Over the last 10 months, my team and I have accomplished so much. We have successfully operated before and after school clubs at 9 different sites, and over the summer, operated summer camps at 5 different sites. As a result, we have provided thousands of participants with quality recreational programming. This has been no small feat. None of this could have been accomplished without my amazing team. Being outside running summer camp from 6:45 a.m. to 6 p.m. takes a lot of work, time, and effort. I just want to thank every single after-school club staff that has made a positive impact in their role. I know we will continue to build upon this program and continue providing quality recreational programming for the community. I also want to thank my supervisors, Danielle and Zach, for their support, and I just want to thank them for choosing me to take on this role. I will continue to work hard, and I look forward to many more years at Rancho Simi. Thank you.
Yeah, so Zen, I just want to say, you score points on about 3 different levels here. I think you know there's a number of us on the board here who care so much about our after-school clubs and make them a priority, and for you to make them stand out means a lot to us. Second, I like the part about how you want them to be better than ever, because I think if anyone knows, I always said it's about being better. It's not about staying the same. It's not about doing what we've been doing, but trying to find a way to be better. So I really admire that. And then I think most importantly, what you just set up there and acknowledging your team, to me, that's the best part of the whole thing. I would have been giving you glowing compliments without that, but that just put me over the top. Really awesome. Thank you.
Besides the Royal Highlander connection, and I appreciate that part, I'm proud of you. What Ed said is true about making it a team to get this work done. As a board, our priority has included improving our after-school clubs, and it's a little bit easier to relax knowing that you're helping out with that. In addition to that, there's been so many changes in the growing programs and partnerships, and you've been handling that, so we appreciate that too. Thank you, and congratulations.
I just want to thank you for all you do and all the organization and the changes that are going on. But I'd like to acknowledge that you've only been an employee for 9 months. And this is really a great honor to be recognized by your peers already. So it just shows what a great job you're doing. Thank you.
Kate, did you want to add anything?
No, I just want to echo what everyone else said. And 9 months is unusual to get an Employee of the Month award that quickly. So congratulations, and it sounds like you've got a great team, so that's good.
I'll just chime in real quick. Ed already pointed out your humble attitude and your recognition of your team as well, which I think is incredibly admirable. I've spoken many times about After School Club and the ELOP program and how critical and important it is. I just want to say thank you so much for all that work. And I know in this report, it says you are the unsung hero. Hopefully, you feel a little less unsung and feel recognized. And I hope you do take away how important your work is, and that the board understands your work is vital and essential to making Simi Valley a place to raise a family, to have kids, to live in a community worth living in. So thank you very much for all your work.
This is yours.
Thank you.
Congratulations. Thank you.
It's great. Thank you.
Congratulations again, well deserved. That takes us to item 7D, presentation of the part-time employee of the month for July 2023, David Curran.
Thank you. Ms. Pennington will provide the report, and if I could have Ranger Curran please approach the podium, I would appreciate it.
The part-time employee of the month for July 2023 is David Curran. David is a park ranger with the administration department. He's worked for the district for 2 years, and this is his first employee of the month award. The person who nominated David stated, "David seeks to do a great job and strives to achieve goals every day. He carries himself in a professional manner, and his strong will to set high standards is noticed by his peers and the residents of the community. He enhances the ranger team by setting examples and doing the little things which are often overlooked but so important. David's calm and collective demeanor serves him well when communicating with the public. He has taken on an active public relations role within the Park Ranger program. David participated in the Simi Valley Police Department's Easter Parade and most recently in the National Night Out event. He is often seen handing out junior park ranger stickers to children in the parks. David is committed to his role, presents a sharp appearance, and has a good sense of humor. He's well deserving of this recognition. Congratulations, David."
I wanted to thank the board. I really love working here. It's been 2 years. I worked for 2 previous police departments before this one. This is literally the best place to work. I'm very proud to be a park ranger and part of the park ranger team. We are really committed to park safety. So our goal is safe parks. Working for the chief, he's probably the best chief I ever worked for. And the board is very receptive to our needs, and I just want to thank everybody.
Good evening. It's a pleasure to have Ranger Curran here. He's like really fast, nice, strong, wants to go out there and do a great job. His community relations is amazing. He has over 20-something years of law enforcement experience that he's brought to the Park District. I consider him my community relations officer. Aside from handing out badge stickers, he gets a big teddy bear and puts him in my patrol car to go on parade and all that. So yeah, he's amazing. He's also gone out to our after-school programs and our preschools to help teach, have the children there at schools about ranger awareness and teach them about the open space and how to react with our open space and on our parks. So I want to say thank you. You're amazing, and keep up the good work.
Thank you, sir.
Would the board like to?
Yeah, I would. I went out a few months ago when the Rangers went to do their qualifying shooting, I went out to shoot, and I was impressed with his knowledge about guns and firearms. He was even patient too. Anyway, I just wanted to say that it was fun, and
I just want to say thank you for being out there. You're always there. You're great. Thank you.
Yeah, and I'll just everything what other people said, but you have such a great attitude to it. It's always great to run into you, and really appreciate all you do.
appreciate a lot about you, including when they said you have high standards, which is true. I like your sense of humor, and I appreciate your creative and get it done attitude to keeping the community safe.
I'll just add it was a pleasure, excuse me, a pleasure to spend the evening with you for a National Night Out. Watching you interact with the public and your colleagues was an absolute pleasure. And I would agree, I think the commitment to the role, sharp appearance, and a good sense of humor all came through in a matter of minutes interacting with you. And I so deeply appreciate all the work you're doing for Rancho Simi. So thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Yes, please.
One of the disadvantages of going last is everyone takes up all the good verbs and adjectives and accolades. So I guess I'm left with things like he's a really good dresser and he knows how to drive a car.
There's too many stickers.
And he stole all my trail guides.
Reappropriated.
Which is okay because they went to a good cause. But seriously speaking, all the little things do matter, but the big things is what really matters, and the way he and his crew here handle the public is a big thing, because if you ever have been out with them on a ride-along, you will see the professionalism that they hold, how they speak with the public, the ones who are informative, but also the ones who are aggressive, and how they get things done. And I'm very proud of our Ranger team, and I'm very proud of Ranger Current. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. Thank you. You are ready.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Sir. Congratulations. Thank you.
I'm going to rewind for a moment to our previous item. We neglected to offer up an opportunity to spend more praise on our employees, so please go ahead.
Sorry, I missed my opportunity. Okay, so this is speaking about Zen and her Employee of the Month. I'm a director over at Mountain View After School Club, and I've been working for Zen for 9 months now. So I just have a couple of things to say. So a couple of months ago, we had our monthly directors meeting led by Zen. Zen told all the directors to write down 3 things that we think every director should possess in order to effectively lead the staff. After seeing the way that Zen leads, I have now officially changed my answers to the following. Zen knows your capabilities and expects them from you day in and day out. You can't help but to rise to the occasion when she believes in you, and when you accomplish something, she's the first one to congratulate you. Zen will always do whatever it takes. There's always a way, and there's always an answer, and there's always a solution with Zen. Failure is not in her vocabulary whatsoever. Zen is supportive from small problems to catastrophes. Zen is always by your side, ready to fight your battles. One thing I think everyone can learn from Zen is that she is not only a leader, but a part of the team as well. Zen is the unsung hero of the After School Club. In my position, when I do something good, like making a fun obstacle course or setting up a really cool scavenger hunt, I get to see the enjoyment from 60 to 80 kids. Zen doesn't get to see that. She's a key part of the After School Club, and as a whole, she's an inspiration to me and to everybody else. So thank you, and congratulations to you.
I'm going to have you write my comments for other people to read about.
So I'll just say congratulations one more time to Zen and to David, both well-deserved. Thank you again for all your work for the Park District and for our community. That will take us to item 7E, approval of MRCA final budget for fiscal year 23-24.
Thank you, Chair. Ms. Pennington and staff from the MRCA will present the report.
Chair Gray and members of the board, the Mountains Recreation and Conservation Authority is governed by a joint powers agreement, which requires each partner agency to review and approve the annual budget for MRCA. The Rancho Simi Recreation and Park District Board reviewed and approved the MRCA preliminary budget for fiscal year 2023-24 on June 21st, 2023. This evening, Melissa Smith from Conejo Recreation and Park District has joined us via Zoom. Welcome, Melissa. And at this time, I'll turn the presentation over to Melissa, who will present the final budget for your consideration.
Great. Thank you, Teresa, and good evening, Chair, board members. As Teresa said, we had the preliminary budget before you in June. Now we're here for the final. I'll briefly kind of go over how we packaged that budget for you. So first, we have a very, very brief one-page summary that shows all the inflows and all the outflows for the year, and then it starts getting into more of the details. We have all the revenues broken down on one page in different categories, and similarly, all the expenditures broken down in one page in different categories. And then we have a list for you of the 200 different projects or tasks that the MRCA is looking to get done in fiscal year 23-24. And so that's kind of how it's broken down, is you get these big overall shots and then the specific 200 projects that they're working on. With that, I generally want to say that the notes that are in the budget material pretty much give you the picture of it. But I wanted to highlight a few items that don't be too repetitive of the materials you have. But on the revenue side, I wanted to call your attention to note 3. About some funds that we're referring to as pass-through funds. These are funds where the MRCA is playing a project management role, but the project itself is done by another entity. Specifically, those are for some camp rebuild projects for some camps that were damaged by wildfire, and the Liberty Wildlife Corridor wildlife crossing over the 101 freeway. So I wanted to call your attention to that on the revenue side. And on the expenditure side, I wanted to call your attention to notes 1 and 4. For note 1, the total salaries and benefits for fiscal year 23-24 is a 7.7% increase from fiscal year 22-23 approved budget. This is to allow for a 5% COLA for staff and some assumed increases in the medical benefits. And we also have some staff turnover from retirements and people leaving and new staff coming in. So all those are worked into those numbers. And then for note 4 on land acquisitions, I wanted to point out that that also includes the $6 million for the acquisition of Poe Ranch. And you can also find that project on the project by project breakdown on page 7, listed as a prospective grant. But that's all I have for the highlights, and I'm available for any questions you might have.
Any board questions at this time? Yes, Vice Chair Freeman.
Maybe you can clarify for me projects that as reimbursable or advanced funds. So do you give out grants that have to be repaid? Is that it?
Where are you referring to, so I answer you correctly?
I'm on the second page towards the bottom. It says projects are identified in the MRCA financial system as reimbursable or advanced funds.
Oh.
Okay.
Yes, I'm with you. So some of the grants that the MRCA receives are on purely reimbursable basis. So the MRCA is fronting the entire expense of the grant and then being reimbursed for those expenses. But there are some grants that have either a portion or all of the grant funds are advanced to the MRCA. So it's kind of juggling, those two are combined in the budget. So we have grants of both types.
I'm just curious where these grants come from. They're like from bond issues here in years past. Is that correct?
It's a variety. So a lot of the grants in years past were from bond-funded bond-funded state conservancy funds. More recently, there have been general fund grants from Santa Monica Mountains Conservancy, but also the State Coastal Conservancy, and they also receive grants from LA County for the different parks and the open space district there.
Okay.
Any other board questions? I'm good as well. Any public comment on this item? I see somebody connecting to audio, but it's been like that for, Any public comment on this item? We're discussing the MRCA final budget for fiscal year 23-24. Okay, I'm going to take that as a no. Okay, any board comments?
So I'm looking over the budget and I'm happy that MRCA is a good agency that does good work, including access to places that belong to the public, but some people want to make it harder to find, like beaches in Malibu. I'm trying to be very patient because I know that buying open space and land is a very complicated and long process. So I'm doing my best to be patient. I know the governor has a 30 by 30 plan, and to get that done, I want part of that 30 by 30 to be in Simi Valley. Like, I don't want all the funding to go to other places. I know the Poe Ranch acquisition is proposed in there, but I'd like to see us do better on buying open space because I want to make sure that we have a focus on that. And then separately than that, I spoke to some of the staff at MRCA about this possibility. Bike riding is becoming more popular, mountain biking is becoming more popular. Communities are connected through mountain biking, and what I mean by that is specifically, I rode my bike to a meeting in Oak Park. You just ride through the hills. There's trails, but they're not always very clear what's private property and public property. And once you leave the first couple miles, it's not always improved as much. It becomes a fire road maybe, but there's many trails that are not being used, but they could be. As an example, Devil's Canyon goes from Rocky Peak, which is a part of Simi Valley, but through the San Fernando Valley, and there's nobody back there. It's really good. I won't mention the Poison Oak too much, but it's a beautiful area. So what I'm getting at is I would like to suggest that we ask for a grant from MRCA to do a mountain bike study, specifically on how to improve the trails that go beyond just the park district, but up into the open space, and how the trailheads that sometimes connect different communities, so it's not just us doing it, that they would give us a grant so that our staff could be funded to research it and then see what land is either available to purchase or which trails there's grants to improve.
I love that idea. I especially love RSRPD using other monies to improve our facilities in our region and area. Any other board comments at this time? There's,
Chair, if I could, I just,
yes.
with the direction, I'll work with the MRCA staff to pursue the grant that the board's interested in pursuing.
Is there a second to the motion?
I will second.
Could we do roll call, please?
Director Avila?
Aye.
Director Dennard?
Yes.
Director O'Brien?
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman?
Yes.
Chair Gray?
Aye.
The motion carries with a unanimous vote.
Thank you. That will take us to item 8, continued business. Subpoint A, review and provide direction regarding status of the duck and geese overpopulation at Rancho Simi Community Park.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Wayne Nakaoka, the district's Planning and Maintenance Director, will provide staff's report.
Wayne.
Chair Gray, members of the board, at your request, I'm here to present to you what we've been doing in regards to the ducks and geese at Rancho Simi Community Park. On March 18, 2021, the board reviewed, discussed, and provided staff with direction to abate the ducks and geese overpopulation in Rancho Simi. You requested 5 items from me. Work with the Mother Geese Brigade to construct a feeding pen, post no feeding signs at the park site, utilizes the placement of wildlife deterrents to discourage habitation, provide public education and ranger enforcement, and obtain an egg adding permit to inhibit the ducks and geese habitation over our pond. Based upon that, the Mother Geese Brigade did construct and pay for a feeding pen at the park. It's on the north side of the lagoon. Didn't cost us anything. They did quite a nice job of it. A picture of it is attached as Exhibit A. From staff's observations, the Mother Geese Brigade is feeding the ducks and geese, or actually it's supposed to be the geese, in the feeding pen itself. They wear their little vests once in a while. We can tell who they are versus other people at the park side. There have been others at the park site feeding ducks and geese with the appropriate food. We know this when we see it lying on the banks along the westerly and southerly side of the park. They're not part of the Mother Geese Brigade as far as we know. They don't wear the vest. They just show up and decide to feed the ducks and geese. The actual intent of the feeding pen was to separate and only feed the Chinese geese that are at the site since they can't fly. Staff has received reports that other other birds or ducks and geese have been also fed in the pens, which I gotta admit, on behalf of the Mother Geese Brigade, you can't really take out one animal, even herd all the little ones in there. Somebody's gonna sneak into the pen to get something to eat. I mean, you've been feeding them there, they know where the food is. It doesn't happen too often, but we have had reports from maintenance staff that there's been other animals in there. As far as item 2, the no feeding signs, we did post no feeding and no dumping of wildlife signs. They're a copy of the picture of the signs that we put out there in 9 locations as attachment B. Today, most people are following the rules. I see a lot less mothers with their little babies feeding breads to the ducks. We haven't encountered any new animal species at the park site, so we were doing pretty good. We have tried placement of wildlife deterrents and other type of deterrents out there. We've tried, I wouldn't include them all. The geese away lights that everybody reads in the magazines that say they're 100% guaranteed, money back guaranteed, they don't work. There's a small print on the instructions that says that they don't really work in metropolitan areas because the ducks and geese become used to lights, noises, and people. So my mistake, I bought 3 of them. Shouldn't tell Teresa that, she'll probably take it out of my paycheck. We have tried WD-40. We tried a lot of things around the internet. Commercial perfume. John Krieger went out and stole from his daughter a whole bunch of perfume bottles. We tried pouring it out there. It didn't work. We did buy a fake animal replica at the recommendation of Director Denner. He lasted 24 hours before he disappeared. I don't know where he went. We did try real animal scent discouragements, or I'm not going to say what's in the bottle, but it's real animal scent, and I will not go next to the maintenance person that's pouring that out in the park site. It is nasty. We have tried commercial grade duck and geese repellents. They actually work, but they only actually work for a short period of time. They worked up until we turned the irrigation system on. We sprayed the park around there, and once the irrigation washes it away, it doesn't work anymore. But it does work. It prevents them from eating the grass out of the park site. To take care of item 4, which was the public education and ranger enforcement, the Mother Geese Brigade did make some nice signs. They put them up in the marquee out there explaining everything, including a big statement about Dory. I read that recently, it's still there. It does say what you can feed the ducks, along with our signage. It's up there, we did take care of it. I think people are reading it. They like the pictures. Very nice little display. And the final item is obtaining an egg addling permit. The park district was successful in obtaining what's called a nest and egg depredation permit from the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Services that allows us to take and destroy the eggs and nests at the park site. We call it removal only on our permit. We only can do it in the park site. We can't do it in the Arroyo Simi. There is a lot of ducks and geese laying eggs in the Arroyo Simi area. I can't do anything about it, sorry, but it's there. We did get a new permit for this year to do the same thing. I will let you know the numbers right now, since you're going to ask me it anyways. We're only responsible to record the number of nests removed, not the number of eggs. Last year, we removed 62 nests from the islands and surrounding areas. And this year, to date, we have 42 nests that have been removed from the site. At this time, staff is requesting that the board review, discuss the informational update, and provide any recommendation to staff or direction to staff. to help abate the duck and geese overpopulation at the park. And I'm here to answer any questions you may have.
Chair, because it's I feel like a pretty unique problem that doesn't come before us in any other capacity. I request that if we have any suggestions on things that we could do, that we put that into questions for Wayne, and the reason is I would like to hear the public on that. So if we have a creative solution, I wouldn't want to do it after the public spoke, because I feel like I know a fair amount about geese, but I'm not expert, so maybe the public could weigh in on one of our suggestions.
Absolutely. I like that idea. I have a few questions, but would anybody on the board like to start?
I have a few questions. How often do you cull the eggs?
Well, we don't cull the eggs, we remove the nest.
Okay, how often do you go out and do that?
Probably 3 times a week. You guys
3 times
want
a
that?
week?
Yeah.
And I was wondering if the permit, does it have to be renewed every year? Or is
Yes, it does.
So that you have to go for 23 and 24?
Yes. The permit is only actually good from February through August. That's the bird nesting season. I don't know why they don't ask us the number of eggs. They just say record the number of nests removed from the site.
So how many nests are out there if you remove that many nests?
62 last year, 42 to date this year.
And even with that, the population's increasing?
I don't know if the population's increasing. I didn't actually go out there and count how many ducks and geese are out there, but I'll say, as a public record, the condition hasn't gotten any better out there. We still have an issue. The photographs, I believe, is my attachment C. Most recent photos I took out during the day shows quite a bit of grass, and they are moving south. A lot of ducks and geese are now around the play area, doing what my lawnmower crew is supposed to be doing, cutting the grass. Problem with them is the ducks and geese take it all the way to the rut. But they only eat, I'll say, new grass. They won't eat the older grass as a whole. They love the fresh stuff.
So basically, you remove every nest that you find?
Yeah, when the maintenance guys are out there, they see a nest, they'll remove it and record it.
I have a question. If we were to remove the ducks or geese, what would that entail? Would that
I only can remove the Chinese geese because they can't fly. I can't touch the Canadian geese. They're protected by the Federal Migratory Bird Act.
Oh, okay. Okay, so if we were to rehome the Chinese geese, we'd still have the ducks and the Canadian geese?
That is correct.
Okay.
Chair, if I could, and Director O'Brien, there are strategies and there are companies, because there's bird overpopulation at various areas. There are companies that will do that. It mostly involves a shooing process. So you can shoe the eggs. Director Knockoak has mentioned that we could take away the water source for a while potentially to reduce the population. So even though you can't technically remove them, there are companies that will help you with bird overpopulation issues.
Make them think it's their idea.
As a follow-up to that, do those companies, are they actually doing anything different than what we're doing?
Yes, there's about an 8-point plan, I think, and they express, I think that's in your previous staff report from a year ago, that you need to do all 8 of those things, one of which is shooing and removing them from the area in a humane way, but in a way that spreads them to other areas so that you don't get the congregation. Just like anything else, there's a congregation of a bunch of birds, there's strategies to which you can get them to move along and reduce the population. So, but they are doing that. We are not doing some of those things. So.
Vice Chair Freeman, did you have a follow-up question that was missed? No.
I do. I know there's the 2 sets of geese, but there's 16 of the domestic geese or the Chinese geese, and I've seen much more than Canada geese, and those seem to be the problem more so because there's. Wayne, how many would you estimate of not the domestic geese, the Chinese geese, but the Canada geese?
Well, we had 21 Chinese geese 2 years ago. Some of them have disappeared. We don't know where they are. I believe there's about, you're right, 16 or 18 of them out there. My guess, based upon what maintenance tells me, is that we have about a population of 300 Canadian geese out there.
The reason I ask that is I would ask for feedback from the community and staff on primarily the 300 geese, not the 16. But part of that was the draining the pond. Can you tell me like what that would look like?
Well, what it is I was talking with Dan, and since Chinese geese cannot fly, those will have to be relocated or found. We'll have to find some place for them to go. Once you drain the pond, Canadian geese will naturally leave the site. They have no water source. They like to be in the water or near water. They'll just migrate away as they did when we renovated the pond back in 2015. Bird situation went away. Unfortunately, it came back within 3 years to a point where we had to buy that, I'll call it the pooper scooper, or the vacuum cleaner, to help clean the park, and that's when it started getting bad. But during that time period, we had a environmental habitat monitoring permit or requirement for 3 years, which regrew the vegetation on the island. My intent is if you allow me to drain the pond to help get rid of the ducks and geese, I'm going to take the plants off the island, skirt up all the plants so they can't nest underneath. It will be a less formidable habitat for them to live in.
So we're gonna have questions about that. So obviously we drain the pond, that there's cost and work in that, and I want to know a little bit about that. But the second part is, I know it's hard to estimate, but let's say we drain the pond, it'll make this situation better, but they come back. I want to know how extensive it is to do that, since if we do that and they come back a few months later, that's not good, but maybe if it's a few years, it makes it better. And part of that, it makes me think what you said about them preferring the new shoots of grass is if we tie those things together, like growing some new grass while the pond's drained, so by the time we fill it back up, it's not new grass.
We could do that. People have told me if we're going to drain the pond, we have to leave it vacant for 6 months. That would be a minimum. That would get rid of the birds. It depends upon which time of season. Best time to do it would be during the winter, before the bird nesting season. That way they won't habitate at the site. They'll find someplace else to go. That's my best guess. I haven't talked to Fish and Game, their expert. All their experts would tell me is they won't give me a take permit for the animals. They only had one in Southern California in the last 5 years, which has now been revoked. Yeah, I couldn't tell you. I have to do a little more study before I can give you a definitive answer, how long it would last or how effective it would be.
If you drain the pond, how hard is that to do?
Draining the pond is very easy. The pond is hooked to our irrigation system. I just turn off the intake to the pond and let the irrigation system run for 2 or 3 nights or 2 or 3 weeks, and the pond will be dry.
Chair, if I could also, in addition to draining the pond, in terms of keeping the bird population down after that point when you reach, and that's when you would have one of these consultants or companies come in and use strategies to keep the population down.
I have a couple questions. First question is, what if instead of planting grass, they is there any kind of vegetation that they really hate to eat, they don't like, that we could plant instead, that we know about?
I don't know. I can't say I don't know that answer.
Okay.
The only thing they eat at the park is the grass. So.
Yeah, so if we found some kind of grass or some kind of green ground cover that they really didn't like the taste of, right? Yeah.
We could look into that.
Yeah, that would be an easy way of doing it. Also, I want to say it's fine feral cats and put them loose in the park. That would create more problems, maybe.
I think the cat's smaller than the goose.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That could affect.
Don't think that's what we're
Okay.
about.
All right, it was a thought.
not reproduce?
They reproduce.
Is that what I understood from last time?
No, they do reproduce.
They do?
There's very small gene pool out there with only 16 or 18 of them left. I don't know if they are reproducing, but they can reproduce.
I know we have some individuals in the audience who may be able to speak to that, but what I recall last time was the ones that are still around are aged out of being able to mate, and the younger ones don't have, as you said, Wayne, don't have potential mates. Yeah.
I have another question. Is there any way to get like any kind of a waiving of the Migratory Bird Act provisions so that we could get rid of some of the...
You're talking about the depredation permit, and Fish and Wildlife is not really issuing us one for a take.
Just out of curiosity, I don't know if you know the answer, but knowing that the Chinese geese are not migratory and cannot fly, I'm assuming that last time we drained the pond, I recall, the Chinese geese then went into the ravine because I assume they require some sort of water source.
That's right.
And so would your opinion be if we chose to drain it to try and address the Canadian geese problem? I wouldn't want to be inhumane, but I would assume the requirement would then we'd have to relocate the Chinese geese out of the community, otherwise we're putting them in a...
I'm getting pretty good at relocating animals, like the turtles and fish, and I'm getting good at it. I'm finding them nice homes in the Tascadero, and I don't know where the geese go, but...
That whole refurbishing thing was over $1 million.
Yeah.
A lot of the bays had to be shipped. It was very complicated.
When the Chinese geese, because they're domestic, they need water for protection, I understand, but could they be temporarily rehomed in a place like the back of Stratton Park in a pen? Then they'd be
The
safe?
answer is yes. I don't know if you want to do that, but the answer is yes. They're domesticated animals according to Fish and Game. You could go out there and do whatever you want. There's no permit required to relocate them. They really don't like you doing a take or exterminating them, unless you use it for some good purpose. Otherwise, they have a term for it. I forgot what the term for it is. Wasting wildlife.
I'm just imagining if the pond is drained, if that's what the board decided to do, just finding a place for them, maybe even at that park in a safe place while it's drained.
And then you're suggesting we reintroduce them after
The Chinese geese, not the Canada geese.
Oh.
I want the Canada geese to fly around and find lots of other places to be.
Hopefully just not Simi Hills Golf Course. Another follow-up question regarding the wash, understanding obviously we don't have the authorization to go in there and do what we do on our own property. Do you believe there is some alternative for a partnership there with another government entity or assistance from their end on egg addling or a partner in helping address this, since they freely move back and forth and we can only do what we can do on our own
The
space?
answer is yes.
Is there something the board can help you make that happen?
No, oddly enough, a friend who I've known for 25 years over at Flood Control is now in charge of maintenance and operations, Sergio Vargas. I talk with him at least once a month. I could ask him if he'd be willing to co-sign or obtain an egg handling permit, which we would do the work for him.
It's good to have friends.
Do we know if there are a lot of nests down in the road? Yes.
That's what I've been told from maintenance staff, that all the new ducklings and everything that are out there are coming from the arroyo. We've eliminated all the nests and eggs within our park, but they're still out there, and they see them down there. And they've been instructed not to take the nests down in the arroyo.
Any other questions? I'm okay. I know I have some comments that I'll be saved till we're at board comments. I know I have some speaker cards here. I will move to those. Thank you, Wayne.
Thank you.
I'm going to start in the order in which I was handed the speaker cards, and just as a gentle reminder, anybody will have up to 3 minutes to address this topic. And I'll also add, thank you very much for coming out tonight, and thank you for joining us this evening. The first speaker card I have is from Sheila Newman.
We switch?
Sure, absolutely. Allegra, Reese. Okay.
Good evening, board members. Thank you for having us tonight. I have a lot of more information about the park because I'm there every single week for the last 35 years. Yes, I concentrate on the domestics. I was going to start with real positive stuff because there's a lot of positive stuff going on down there. These are the bins. These are them feeding. It is all Chinese geese. It is not domestics. We built trays off the ground so that the ducks couldn't reach. Every time we come across a problem, we fix it. We had pigeons flying in. We covered the pen. We had squirrels coming on the bottom. We've been putting boards on the bottom. This is your total number of 16 geese that are living at the park right now. The number is 16. We had 24 last year. We are down to 16. We have had no babies since 2017. So there's that. These are half of the geese. I have the date. Photos were taken yesterday and today. This is half the geese. This is what is not your problem. They cannot survive in the arroyo, plus the fact there's fresh water in the arroyo. The Canada geese are going to get water from the arroyo. They're going to nest in the arroyo. They're going to eat your grass. It costs $1.8 million to drain that pond in 2015, redo it. It is filled with silt. It's very dangerous for children. You will have to put a chain link fence all around the perimeter of the park, which would not include the grass. So your Chinese geese will breathe in the wash and eat your grass. They do leave, which is good news for you guys. This is the most current picture of the kiosk, the information, and that's all positive. This is a picture of your grass taken yesterday. This is the grass you're so worried about because the geese have left. The Canada geese, the permit was given to the rangers very, very late this year. Last year we had 3 Canada geese born in the arroyo. They marched their way up to the park. We saw them, 2 died. That was it. This year, the culling permit was granted late. We had about 300 babies. Those babies were born from February through June, and they molted. Yes, they are up at your grass. This picture was taken in June. This is them molting. The feathers all over the place. They're getting new feathers. In August, they begin to leave. And this is your total number of Canada geese at the park right now. It's about 45. So yes, your summers are kind of filled with Chinese geese at the park. You can see the grass is not as bad as you think. It's not worth a couple $1 million to drain that pond. It looks green to me. I took this picture this morning. Okay? And just so you know, these are your other parks in Simi Valley. This is your dog park. No geese. This is Frontier Park. No geese. We had a drought for 2 years. We didn't have water. These parks get, this is also Frontier Park. Picture was taken 2 days ago. No geese, no water. It's just how parks go. They go brown, they go green. I don't think you should waste $1.8 million to put a big fence. You were not with the board at the time, so you're not aware of this information. I understand that. I think these other board members know, if you were here, how much money you spent and what was attained. And that's about it. We have 24 volunteers who are down there every single day. We have trained them to go over, we count them, we take care of them, we remove fishing line, we remove hooks. We talk to the community. This park had a very bad reputation, so now it doesn't. Thank you.
Well, they go through, pass around those things that you wrote.
Yeah. And by the way, this is an award that we won last year, an Earth Day award for the work that we do. Thank you.
Sheila Newman, did you want to speak then?
Hi, my name is Sheila. I wrote a little something, and it'll just take a minute. So we're a group of volunteers, women, men, and children, 24 in total. We are very dedicated to this group. We spend our time twice a day, 7 days a week, regardless of the blazing hot sun or the pouring rain and slippery mud. We are there because we want the Chinese geese to have healthy food daily. We spend our own money to buy the food and any supplies that they might need. They are merely innocent geese that were dumped at the park. They each have a name. These geese bring us a lot of joy. They also bring joy to the visitors at the park. The families love seeing them, and they are in awe of watching the parade of them following us, the volunteers that are feeding, to the pen. People will come up to us to ask us questions about these geese. We educate and we inform the visitors to any knowledge and information that we have regarding them. We also help to keep the park clean and safe by removing trash that's left. There's fishing line and hooks that are dangerous to children and the wild animals, the wildlife, that's been left behind by others. Since this is a no feeding park, this allows the families to enjoy a rite of passage that has been part of Simi Valley community for over 50 years. These geese, they know us. So all in all, most of the people love these feathered beauties. They come to the park to visit them. They enjoy seeing them, and they're beautiful. So that was it. Thank you for your time. I have a picture of Chinese geese, and they're all being fed in the pen, in the trays, by the volunteers. And we keep track of how many there are. And these are us up here. There's also children. While we're feeding them, people will come up to us and are like, oh my gosh, they followed you all the way from there just to come over here. So they enjoy seeing the people, the group of volunteers feeding. So it would be a shame for them not to be there. I realize the Canada geese are a problem, but these guys are not. Thank you for your time. You want to see it?
Thank you. Oh, sure.
When you're feeding the Chinese geese.
Me?
Yeah, any of you, and I really admire your time and energy. But we have a problem with people feeding the other geese, the other ducks. That's where our problem is, because they're multiplying and there are maintenance issues. So do you have any suggestions on how to stop people from feeding the ducks when they're not supposed to be feeding it? And the signs are there, and I mean, they see you feeding them Chinese geese, do they think then they can feed the other ducks?
I know when us as the volunteers are there and we see other people feeding, we try and explain to them that it's a no feeding park, but they're more than welcome to come over to the pen to watch us feed. It's like amazing to see them, and they're more than welcome to come over and watch and enjoy that. We can't help what the other people do. We do our best to keep them. And if we see somebody there, we tell them, it's a no feeding park, the bread is bad for them, it causes them health issues, angel wing. So it's better to get the food, but you could follow us over, watch us feed. There's someone here every day, twice a day, so you could come anytime or certain times and you would be able to find someone. As far as the Canada geese, there's nothing we can do to tell, we try to tell people that you cannot feed them, I've been called nasty names, I've been yelled at, a mother got in my face because I said, they were actually chasing them. And I'm like, they're animals, you really shouldn't be doing that. And I know all of us as volunteers, we all try to discourage the public from feeding, but there's only so much we can do. And there is signs up, they're posted around the park. So, and people do enjoy seeing, there's tons of, we have all kinds of wild birds and things on the island, and it's just so incredible. People just will sit on the bench and admire the beauty of the park. It's my safe space, it's my happy place. And I know other people feel that way because we talk to the public that's there, and they're just so intrigued by, these animals. And it's Simi Valley Duck Park.
We have a maintenance problem.
Yeah, I understand that, but it's difficult. So,
Thank you.
You're welcome.
The next speaker card I have is from Gavin, and I apologize, Honachik? Honachik.
Hello, thank you for offering me the time to speak. I'm Gavin Honachik. I am a avian field biologist at the Western Foundation for Vertebrate Zoology. And we've already had a lot of people talking about, the merits of the Chinese geese, but I wanted to speak more to, the nature of the Canada goose problem that you're having here. And so to understand this, you kind of have to understand the migratory and breeding pattern of Canada geese. They arrive here in winter, they breed in the spring, they have their babies, which obviously are incapable of flight, and then the adults molt as well and are incapable of leaving, and then they regrow their feathers and come back in or they leave in the fall from the park. At that time, when they are at the park, they do not have any food source other than the grass that is there. And you were bringing up questions about the public feeding the Canada geese. They are largely not eating food from the public. They are largely eating grass and foraging plants because they are vegetarian. They are herbivores. They are mostly eating grass. But this year, obviously, we had a population of about 300 Canada geese hatched this year. And as was mentioned, that was due to a delay in issuing the egg addling permits. And as was mentioned before, in previous years where the egg addling permits have been issued in a timely manner, there have been populations of about between 3 and 20 at most of the Canada geese. This year, the egg addling permits were issued after the babies had hatched, and so you already had that population. And at that point, they are protected birds. There's nothing that can be done. And again, the babies cannot fly, they cannot leave, so wildlife deterrents are ineffective. The adults are molting and cannot fly and cannot leave, so any form of deterration is not going to be effective in removing them. The only thing that really can be done is ensuring that they do not hatch in the first place through timely issuing and acquisition of the egg addling permits earlier in the year. And I would like to, just kind of second and encourage deeply the idea of working with the with other districts that are managing the geese in the arroyo, because that is where they are breeding, and if you drain the water in the pond, you are not going to eliminate the Canada geese because they are just going to breed in the arroyo. If you drain the water in the pond, you are going to be, one, obviously, as I spoken before, you are going to be depriving the domestics that cannot leave a source of water and protection, but you are also going to be eliminating vital bird habitats. Here at the Rancho Simi Community Park, we are one of the few eBird hotspots in Simi Valley. There have been over 200 native species of birds recorded that they live on the island. They use the water for, to survive and for protection and as habitat, and the plants on the island all of these species are protected species. They cannot be harmed, they cannot be relocated. And the elimination of the water in the pond, the cutting down of the plants would damage that habitat as well, while not eliminating your problem with the Canada geese. So again, just reaffirming, the only real solution to eliminate the Canada geese is to stop them from reproducing by acquiring the egg addling permits before the babies are hatching, as has been done in previous years and have resulted in, you know, it has resulted in much less grass being eaten and no overpopulation to the same degree that we have seen this year. Thank you.
Thank you.
Oh, actually, sorry, I want to add one thing really quick. Your suggestion about ground cover that Canada geese do not enjoy to eat. Yes, there are also plants that Canada geese will not eat that can be grown in place of grass. I do not know them off the top of my head, but that is also a viable solution if you wish to continue looking into it. Thank you.
Is there anyone else who would like to make a public statement on this item? Okay.
Is there anyone on Zoom that would like to make a public statement on this item?
Okay. That will close our public comment period, and we will go to board comment. Director Denner?
I do understand that we wanted to continue to improve this park and the situation with the Canada geese. I'd like to point out the 16 Chinese geese, that's the current number and going down. So that means I don't feel like that's the problem, the focus, the 16 geese versus, I was there today and you're right, they flew away because just a few months ago I was like, man, there's like hundreds of geese here. So I was just going to check before my meeting and I was just looking around to see all these geese and there's 40 or 50 or so. This is pretty accurate. When I suggested about draining the pond, I wasn't saying it was a good or bad idea, but just if it was going to happen, we would keep in mind the domestic geese that were dumped there. I did want to know about the coaling permit. So a few people brought up that it came a little bit later this year. Wayne, you're probably the best person for that.
It was issued January 14th.
So if people said it was late, was that just the normal time that you give it?
No, it's issued in January at the beginning of every year, and it ends in November when I have to do the reporting. We refile in December.
I definitely see hands up, but I'm not the chair of the meeting about that. And then the cost to drain the pond, that's, I assume that was the cost if you have to do extra work besides draining it that we heard earlier.
Oh, sorry. Talking to the speaker for the official record. The cost they're mentioning is the rehabilitation or the renovation cost of the entire pond. What I'm proposing to do is to drain the water, which is approximately 500,000 cubic feet of water. That's the only cost involved. We don't have to we could probably clean out the pond a little bit.
And that water is not wasted, it's just used, right?
No, we don't waste any water. We put it back out in the forest.
So what is that cost? Is there a number for it, or is it just
No, it'd
regular?
be 500,000 cubic feet. 100, divide that by 100. That's how many CCF, and we pay $5 a CCF. Want me to do some quick math?
So it's just refilling the pond.
Yeah.
That water's not going out to the Arroyo, it's just being used.
No. Right now, our irrigation for the whole park comes from the pond at night. We suck it down about 6 inches every night, and it refills during the day.
And then I did like that suggestion of looking into other plants, because the issue that I see is some of the playing fields, but those are farther away from the pond, and when the geese can't fly to get to them, that's different. But the hill right in front where we do concerts in the park, the upper part is nice, I saw the photos. The other part's a little bit beat up, and I'd like to be able to improve that, but there's other ways to improve it besides draining the pond. So I'm not convinced about draining the pond, because I'm thinking it's 6 months to be effective. That's 6 months of our community not being able to use it. And then that's about it.
I do know there were some hands raised. Public comment has closed. If someone can come up and in one sentence state their opinion or their thought on the permit, but otherwise I would ask to please respect that the public comment time period is closed.
I do appreciate your shirt.
Thank you. With regard to the permit, you know, we're down there every day and we work with the maintenance crew a lot. We see them and engage with them. When we saw them, I want to say it was April, maybe May, and we were asking about the nest of eggs because we, you know, they will look out for the Chinese geese on the island. And so we asked them about the permit. They're the ones that told us that the permit was issued late, therefore they were starting to cull the eggs in the nest late. They said they started April and May. And that's when we were surprised because we was like, this needs to start in early spring because now, I mean, babies are already born at this point.
Thank you.
This is what we were told.
Thank you. Director Howell?
Just, Wayne, do you have any I will just wait, do you have any response to that, Wayne?
Yeah, it's a simple one. You remember Ashley Danko who used to work for me? Her last act before leaving my employment was to get the depredation permit. She left in January of this year. So that's why I know when we got the permit.
Thank you. Vice Chair Freeman?
So, if we were to get a permit to go into the arroyo, would we get approval from flood control district? And how big an area would we have to cover in the arroyo to get rid of those nests?
Oh, I can tell you the area because I haven't physically gone out there to see where the birds are and get the reports from maintenance staff. It is possible to get the permit. We have to file in November when I get my renewal to do the park for next year. They only take it once a year. It's oddly enough, you have to file late November, early December for the permit, and it's issued in January.
I mean, do you think it's a good idea?
It's a good idea. I wouldn't mind doing it.
I mean, it appears that in a way some of the population is decreasing, but we're never going to get to a manageable level of ducks until we take additional steps. And I'm not in favor of draining the water or just because of the cost of water.
It's another step to get rid of the geese that are considered Simi Valley their home, yes. It'll take a couple of years, maybe 10, 15 years of culling the eggs. Okay. Eventually they will dwindle.
So we will get our permit again for our property.
That's it.
And maybe find out about getting a permit to go into the arroyo.
Yes, I will talk to Sergio about that.
There's on the arroyo, across the arroyo, there's mating pairs of geese, but it's primarily about a mile or two on each side of the pond. And there's some farther than that, but not as many.
I mean, I don't know if we'd have to hire extra people to go out and do that task. I don't know if our staff can handle it, but it seems like it's the most direct approach to reducing the population.
It would certainly help.
Chair, if I could, the egg addling is one solution to the problem. It's got to come with 7 other things all at the same time. So that's why when you talk to Wayne and I've talked to some folks that manage bird populations, that's one piece of the puzzle to solve the problem.
Director O'Brien?
Yeah, I don't like the idea of draining the pond either. It's time consuming. People won't be able to use it, and I think we did that. Like somebody said in 2015, we did do that, and we still have this problem. So it doesn't sound like it was effective. I do support the idea of working with flood control and getting an egg addling permit for the nests that are in the arroyo. I think that sounds most cost effective to me and also effective in general. And also the idea of finding a grass that the geese won't eat, that they don't like. I mean, make it, if they think it's their idea to go find someplace else, that would actually have the swim. So, I mean, that might be a good idea. So, those are my thoughts.
I have one more question. How often does the staff vacuum that area of the park?
Once a week.
Once a week?
The whole park gets swept up once a week, and during special events, twice a week, right before the special event.
That's something you have to do at other parks.
No, we only have one vacuum cleaner stationed at Rancho City.
It's a manual.
Do we have to dispose of that material in a special way?
The remnants?
Huh?
No, there's no special, we dump it in the garbage.
I was worried about that.
All right. I wanted to start by saying I appreciate volunteer efforts. I know 2.5 years ago there was a large crowd that had grave concerns and sometimes differing concerns, but wanted to care for the geese. And I know I did then, and as I have now, going forward, encourage our staff in the park district to work with community groups, however and whenever possible, to have a stronger park, stronger system. And I know in conversations over the last 2.5 years or so, I know the Rancho Simi staff in particular takes a great amount of pride in Rancho Simi and wants, wants to see the park get uplifted and this, especially the grass and the overpopulation of Canadian geese resolved. I don't want to say I saw online that the Mother Goose Brigade, I don't know if it was recent or like this week or previous and just highlighted, but I saw on social media that the new signs in the park, and I appreciated that and thought it was very eye-catching. So I wanted to say thank you for doing that. And I think the toughest part about the whole situation is the condition of the park and the space during the summer. As mentioned, the concerts in the park and events in the park, especially in the spring and summer, the overwhelming amount of geese in this year in particular. I know I was out there for several events, and the grass looked unfortunately sad, specifically in the area where we do the concerts in the park. And I know there were a few events that I was at that were interrupted by Canadian geese kind of wandering through. And if they weren't wandering through, usually their feces was already present or in the vicinity, which is unfortunate. And it is an out of control situation that I don't think is remotely the fault of maintenance staff. I just highlight that as the seriousness of the concern. And the desire to do something so that the Rancho Simi Park can be enjoyed by as many residents as possible. That being said, I'll be honest, I have no idea what a plausible or realistic solution to this problem could be. I don't know how expensive calling in a third-party specialist to address this is. I'd be interested in those numbers. I'd also want to be as clear as we could with that organization if there is any possibility to preserve the work of the Mother Goose Brigade. If that is relocation out of Rancho Simi for some amount of time, if there's a better local home, that I want to honor this community group's work and the dedication that they've shown day in and day out for over 2.5 years, well beyond that. But just in the 2.5 years where we had a very specific request of them, and they have honored that the best they could. I'll say I get frustrated sometimes seeing photos where I have seen non-Canadian geese being fed, but also understanding, as staff has also highlighted, there's a degree of which, birds and wild animals are going to do what they want to do, and when they're hungry, you can't always stop them without endangering yourself, and I would never want a resident in our community to get between a wild animal and some food. So I'd like to explore further opportunities of how to preserve the work of Mother Goose Brigade. If there's, and I believe there is a strong desire, but I'm open to correction and people approaching me after the fact, or after this meeting, about what potential agreeable solutions we could come to. But I mean, to be honest, through no fault of maintenance staff, the park was gross this summer. And I witnessed many times maintenance staff out there working to clean it up, and I know they take great pride, and they deserve to take pride in it. But 2.5 years in, if there's additional steps we can take, I think we have to be more aggressive in dealing with the Canadian geese problem. I want that to be in as much lockstep as we can with the Mother Goose Brigade and other volunteers who have given their time. But I think we have to do something more aggressive than the egg addling that'll take multiple generations of avians to fully address in that way. So I know we had a 5-step plan. You say there's third parties that have 8-step plans. I'd like more information about that. I'd like to see cost expenditure, understanding that we have invested in staff time, especially has invested so much time in trying to beautify the park. And then it seems like every season, or almost every season, the local Canadian geese are undoing that. Vice Chair Freeman?
Are we going to recommend that they go and give permits for the arroyo?
Yeah, I would, and I apologize. Thank you for bringing that up. As addressing the question and now the comment, I would strongly encourage, and Wayne, if you need any assistance, I know you mentioned you have your friend, but if there's anything I can do, the board can do to help move that along and make sure we're also addressing the Canadian geese, in the wash, I think that'd be good.
If I could ask a question, Chair.
Yes.
When you said there was how many nests on the island last year? Or
62.
Okay, if you're looking at the length of the arroyo, how many nests do you think are in the arroyo, say within a reasonable distance of the park and all that? So that it's much bigger than the pond, correct? Yeah. My question is, how much would it take us to remove nests in the arroyo staff? I'm gonna guess it's more nests because it's a larger area much bigger than the island. So
It's just, sorry. Everybody here knows I hate microphones.
put you on the spot. If we don't have it, we can.
I really don't have an answer, because if you're just talking the length of Rancho Senior Community Park, probably take one person 4 hours in the morning once a week.
Okay, that's not, once a
It's
week?
not- Yeah, I wouldn't send them there every day.
Yeah.
The only reason we do it twice a week for the pond.
Once a week for a
is if
couple
they go out
months.
to the island to clean up, and while they're out there,
Okay.
they
Good.
get up.
All right, thank you.
As a follow-up to that, and I apologize for keeping you at the mic, Wayne. How strict are the addling permits about who does what and what level of training? And the context for that question is, if we had a community service day, obviously some of those roles are going to be very specific to certain training and all of that, but if we had Rotarians, as an example, helping on the back end staff, is that remotely feasible?
No, the permit is very specific of who can do it. We have to list every employee that's at the park that's allowed to do the removal of the nests and eggs. Oddly enough, my name's on there too, so I go out there, but there's 8 people on the list right now.
Okay.
We can expand that list, but they won't allow anybody to do it.
If we had volunteer spotters going through but not interacting with the eggs, and then direct staff?
As far as I know, it's perfectly fine.
Okay, so there is
Yeah.
possibly an avenue in which we can have a mass effort identification, and then staff can come in and do the work they need to do and save some staff time by engaging our community. Okay.
Josh, that's good and creative. I like that.
I know a lot of service groups, and I know a lot of scouts who have been in the wash previously. I imagine some of our community volunteers might be willing to get a little, wear their hiking boots in the wash for a little bit.
So if I could clarify the direction.
Yes,
The direction is to bring back the board the cost of a plan to reduce the population in addition to the addling permit, so we can understand what that might entail to do all of it to solve the overpopulation issue. and at the same time, seeing if we can figure out a safe spot or work with the Mother Goose Brigade on the domestic geese that are in the park.
That is the direction I think that we have consensus for, but as a part of that, I wouldn't be as interested in getting an estimate from the company if their answer is, you also have to get rid of the 16 geese. If they can focus their efforts on the hundreds of Canada geese, that's what I'm looking for.
Seems more effective to me, since the Canadian geese are problems.
But, oh, go ahead.
I would think we'd work with the expert on geese population control and bird population control, and then we would bring that back and they would let us know what the status of the geese was, and then the board can make a decision on that time whether to move forward or not.
So, is it a long, involved process to get a permit, or is it something that's pretty direct?
The permit or the overall approach?
The permit. I just wonder.
We're talking about hiring a bird. So there's all kinds of bird overpopulation problems across the country. There's a lot in parks everywhere. And there are folks that will come in and solve your bird population plan in accordance with permits and laws. One piece of that is the permit, but it's all of those things. It's actively managing the bird population and all of this stuff. And there's companies and experts that will do that, and they have to get permits, and they do it humanely. But there's bird so the permit is a part of that overall strategy.
But the permit that we got for our park, and if we were to get it for the Arroyo, is that a long, involved process?
No.
Oh, okay.
If the county allows us to do it because it's their property.
Yeah. We're saving them work. It seems like they'd be happy
Well,
just thinking.
we'll see. And part of the ignorance, but when we're speaking about the county, is that a department that has the authorization that falls under our Board of Supervisors?
I would think so, yes.
Okay, so potentially some conversations with some supervisors might move that forward?
Correct. Yeah.
Okay.
We'll talk to the staff first and.
Sure, absolutely. But I want to keep the option that also, if it's going to be helpful for the board to engage, I want us to engage to resolve the problem as swiftly as possible.
All right, thank you.
And I'm happy to also discuss, if it does make sense with staff time to have a weekend or a day of community engagement in February or whenever it makes sense for that to really engage along, especially along the Arroyo. I'd be happy, especially going to service clubs and promoting it as a volunteer opportunity.
Thank you. That'd be good.
That being said, do staff have the direction it requires? And
I think so. We have consensus on that, just consensus direction. Okay, we'll bring you back with some information on what we find.
Okay. Thank you. And thank you again to everybody who spoke this evening and came out and shared their thoughts. If you need my contact information, please do reach out. I'd love to talk. I know that I will say the experts are members of staff, but I'm also happy to listen and hear opinions. So thank you again for coming out.
Josh, can we take a break before our next item?
Yes, I will call a 5-minute recess, and we will return at 8:20 p.m. Thank you. Call back this session back in order at 8:22 p.m. My apologies for us being 2 minutes late. This will now take us to item 9, new business. Point A, consideration of extension of concession agreement with Mental Equivalent Inc. to operate the food and beverage concession at St. Helens Golf Course.
Thank you, Chair. Golf Course Manager Brian Reed will provide staff's report.
Evening, Chair, members of the board. Background is, in February of 2019, the board authorized the district manager to enter into a 3-year concession agreement with an optional 2-year extension with Evelyn Garfield of Mental Equivalent Inc. to operate the food and beverage concessions at Simi Hills Golf Course under the name of the Birdie Bar. In November of 2021, the board authorized the district manager to execute the 2-year extension, which was provided for in the original concession agreement. That extended their concession agreement to an end date of February 28th of next year, 2024. During this agreement, Birdie Bars has done a great job of serving the guests at Simi Hills Golf Course and the community at large through their fun and creative events. Mental Equivalent has done an excellent job growing revenue and consistently gets good feedback from the customers. Staff anticipates that there would be some interest in the community if the district were to issue an RFP, but we're not aware of any prospective concessionaires that would definitely submit a proposal. Staff have confirmed with Mental Equivalent that they are interested in an extension if offered, and it would continue to operate the food beverage at the Birdie Bar. The policy manual does allow for this, stating Chapter 12.9, prior to the time of expiration of a concession contract, staff has the option of renewing an existing contract or placing it out to bid. If the renewal is to be considered, staff will evaluate all terms, conditions, and provisions of the contract or the permit and the overall performance of the concessionaire. As far as fiscal impact goes, the existing agreement has been effective. Staff anticipates only a few minor changes, administrative updates, if there was an extension. And our recommendation would be that the board consider an extension to the concession agreement, and if so, authorizes the district manager to negotiate a mutually acceptable agreement for an extension of their concession agreement. And I'm happy to answer any questions you may have.
Any board questions at this time?
Just how long would the extension be for? 1 year?
Up to you.
Oh, okay. And nobody else, we're not aware of anybody who's eager to submit a bid or anything of that sort?
I've talked to 4 different potential concessionaires. None of them have indicated that they were definitely going to propose. One would be pretty likely. I don't know about the other ones. I mean, there's been a few people who have expressed interest in it, but nobody's been knocking on my door saying, hey, when's it coming up?
Okay.
Any other board questions?
Brian, I definitely heard you when you said there's a possibility of one, nobody knocking your door. Do you have any conversations with them that they would offer anything substantially different or improved or better? I'm happy with the way it is, but if they're offering something, they had a different vision.
Yeah, the one that would be pretty likely, they're a little light in the experience department. And I've had a couple conversations with them on, they're ambitious young 20 and 30 somethings, and they want to get into business, but they would need substantial access to capital and some business management experience that they don't have. So I don't know that they're ready, and they haven't actually run a business before, so their proposal might be a little bit weak. Tony and Evelyn would obviously put in a proposal, if it went out to bid. And I have a couple other contacts that have bid in years past that would likely do it again. They've all had their particular issues as well, so I don't know that anybody would be, I would hesitate that anyone would be better, because everyone's done it. They've done a great job.
I agree with you that they've done a great job. Those other people that mentioned some other way they wanted to go and make it better, just that they would make it better.
Yeah, I mean, I have a couple of friends, they're members at Mountain Gate, and they have a whole chain of Arby's, and one guy has a chain of 7-Elevens, and so they're familiar with retail and food and beverage, and their vision for it would be to make it kind of an Indian restaurant themed, which that's the kind of thing they like, but I don't know that it would really float that well at CME given the clientele that we usually have. So, and they bid not this last time around, but the time before that. So it wasn't a really well thought out proposal. So,
what is the vision for the other group that you were mentioning? The ones that would be new to this, but are likely to submit a proposal.
Yeah, one of them is actually a current employee there. The other one is a former employee who both work in the food and beverage world. Neither of them have owned a business. They've always been in either front of the house or.
But have they expressed a vision?
They haven't really expressed a vision of what they would do differently than what they're doing now. More of a focus on creative menus, I think, is probably the one thing that I would expect out of them. The one guy he's a foodie, he's a chef, and he likes to create, and we do get some feedback about the Birdie Bar. The menu is still the same. They haven't changed it in 4 years, and it's burgers and fries and dogs, and the same kind of. It's all very profitable items. It all works very well. It's fast. They can do it, and for the most part, people like it. But if there's feedback that I get, that would be the feedback. They don't really reach out and embrace other items, other menu items.
Is that something you could suggest to them?
That would likely be one of the things that I would put into the next concession agreement, or at least propose, negotiate with them on that.
Have you noticed any increase in sales in the restaurant since they've been there?
Yeah, they've done a fantastic job. Going back, say, they are the 4th concessionaire that we've had, 5th if you count me, because when American Golf I ran it. So out of 5, they've in the term of their contract, they've almost doubled sales. When they took over, the restaurant was doing around $500,000 a year. It used to do in the $350 to $400 before the bar. When the bar got installed, it went up to about $500, but they've grown it. This year they did $909, I think. The year prior they did $879. So they've done very well, both on the front of the house and the back of the house. They've done a really good job. I get very, very few complaints.
It seems too that they are willing to have outside groups use the facilities.
That's one of the ways that they've grown revenue. They've really used the patio, to a great extent. Unfortunately, because the junkyard's closed, they've been using it a lot more lately. I mean, we have groups, Rotary, QBN. I mean, we have people there on the patio almost every day, and that's great for revenue. But it's also great exposure for the golf course, and they're both very actively promoting the Birdie Bar on a regular basis. So they do a good job, and they're good people. I like them.
I don't have any questions. I have comments I can make once we're there. But any more board questions at this time? That'll take us to public comment then. I don't see much of a public right now, but I see an M. Cerna on Zoom. Okay.
Dan, do you know who that is?
They haven't unmuted themselves, so I'm assuming there's no desire to speak on this topic. It'll take us to board comments. Would anybody like to kick us off?
I'll do it. Yeah,
Sure.
I think this is a good report. I basically agree with the conclusions. I did want to follow up with Director Denner's question, just to make sure we got a full answer on that. But I'm in favor of this, so I would. I know there's still maybe comment, but I'll just make the motion to follow the recommendation.
I'll second that. Is it a motion? I'll second it.
It was a motion. I'm going to make sure every board member has a chance to speak, but then we will take that motion forward. Director Denner?
I'm impressed with the job that they've done, including increasing revenue, but also increasing fun at the events that they're doing there. And if I heard that somebody else was planning to have a vision for that, but if it's just tinkering with the menu, somebody else has a different menu idea. Their menu idea is very successful, whether I have suggested them or not. People like it, they like it. And I think within this, there is the ability for our staff to talk to them about mixing up the menu a little bit anyways. And I'm very impressed that they do comedy sometimes, and public service groups go there, and live music. That's a lot of cool stuff, and they've done a great job. So I'm happy to support a motion to extend the agreement.
Any other board comment? I'll just also quickly chime in and say I think they've transformed the space in the best way possible. They've activated it to a remarkable degree. Everything you've said I think is spot on. I used to live around the corner about a year before they moved in there. And it used to be really quiet most nights. It's still a nice neighborhood and it's quiet when it needs to be. But as soon as they moved in and started activating it, Thursday, Friday, Saturday nights, during normal hours where you could expect noise, I could hear it from around the block in a good way. That it was music, it was enticing. It was things that you'd want to go see. And I constantly heard neighbors referring that they wanted to walk over, or they wanted to see it. I think they've done an incredible job. And I think it'd be a good idea to go and suggest potential mix-up or add some additives on the menu. But at the same time, they're also the restaurateurs and they've had remarkable success. I have not. I have no idea what I'm talking about. So I would also defer to them if they were like, we're not going to do that. It wouldn't change my mind about keeping them there. They've activated the space. And I can't imagine jumping to another horse with the success they've had. I don't know anybody. If anybody could replicate it, it'd still be changing it just to have the same great thing we already have with the people who took something not activated and really brought it to life.
Yeah, I just was gonna, if I could just follow up on one thing. If they could add menu items, that'd be great and everything. You got to keep in perspective though. It's a public golf. It's an eating establishment and a public golf course. And if they weren't offering what they were offering, it would probably be a disappointment. So I think that if they added some stuff to the menu, that would be a bonus. But I certainly wouldn't like the concept of switching it up a lot because I think you'd probably lose more people that way than you gain the other way around. You have to consider what the function there is too.
I definitely don't want to lose the green salsa. It's really good.
I agree. It's really good.
Okay. If there's no other further board comment, there was a motion. Can we do roll call, please?
Director Evelyn?
Aye.
Director Jenners?
The bird is the word and the word is yes.
Director O'Brien?
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman?
Yes.
And Chair Gray?
Aye.
Motion carries with a unanimous vote.
Thank you. That will take us to item 9B. Approval of resolution granting a temporary construction easement deed to the Ventura County Transportation Commission to construct the Simi Valley Double Track and Platform Project and authorization for the district manager to execute a right-of-way contract with the Ventura County Transportation Commission for the Simi Valley Double Track and Platform Project.
Thank you, Chair. Mr. Nakaoka will provide the report.
I'll keep this brief as possible. Chair Gray, members of the board, the Ventura County Transportation Commission, or VCTC, and the Southern California Railroad Authority, which we'll call MetroLink from here on out, is partnering to construct the Simi Valley Double Track and Platform Project over by the MetroLink station. The VCTC has requested a temporary construction easement of 36 months on a portion of Park District property, which is I'm going to call it's a landlocked parcel, separated from its main body. The main body is the Park Ranch open space, which is 102 acres. This little area of land is less than half an acre, it's 0.46 acres that they're requesting. It is blocked off and isolated by the erosion seeding flood control channel. Based on the appraisal performed by Hennessy and Hennessy, their real estate appraisers, the VCTC is offering a lump sum of $1,200 for the 36-month construction easement. While the Park District does have the right to dispute this about and hire our own independent appraisal, it's my opinion that the appraisal costs may exceed any compensational value of the land that we gain in it. I guess you guys can understand that if the appraisal costs $3,000 and then the land value doubles, we lose $100 in the deal. So I don't think it's going to work out too well for us. In addition to the temporary construction easement, The VCTC is requesting that the Park District execute a right-of-way contract, which is an agreement that lays out the terms of the payment and other obligations on both parties. Currently, staff and legal counsel are still working on revisions to the agreement or the contract. We hopefully will get those resolved shortly. It should be noted that the VCTC has been very good to the Park District. We're not able to get money directly from them, but we do get pass-through money from the city of Simi Valley of $30,000 a year for trail maintenance. And they're also the ones who provided the most amount of funding for the phase 3 of the Royal Simi through the Active Transportation Fund, which was very nice of the city to do for us. At this time, staff is requesting that the board approve the resolution granting temporary construction easement deed to the Ventura County Transportation Commission to construct the Simi Valley double track and platform project, and authorize the district manager to execute the right-of-way contract with the VCTC for the Simi Valley double wide or double track and platform project on behalf of the Park District, once approved and accepted by legal counsel. And I'm here to answer any questions. That M. Cerna is the person I've been working with from HDR Engineering. His name is Mario Cerna, and he's online just in case there's any real technical questions you have about the project or about the easement or how they came up with anything.
Wayne, am I looking at this correctly, that it won't ever block the project?
No, it will not. They've made special provisions in their environmental document to keep the trail open at all times during construction.
Tell me again exactly what they're building. It's
a secondary track alongside. That's the simplest way I can put it. So the trains can pass each other safely. Right now, there's a small siding right by the lumber company.
Oh, right, okay.
They need a longer one.
Got it, okay, that's fine.
I may have missed it, but when I looked through there, is there a hold harmless agreement? I mean, if there is, we have no liability if someone gets hurt out there on our property.
That is part of the revisions we asked for.
That, if I may jump in, that is why we're asking for you to include that this would, subject to approval by legal counsel. There were a number of issues with the contract like that, that we want to make sure we get nailed down. That being said, we don't think there's any issue with the concept as a whole. We think it's a great idea with someone who's been very supportive of us over the years, but we would like to nail those kind of issues down.
I mean, hopefully nothing will happen, but if we don't cover it, it could happen.
Yes, exactly.
Any other board questions? All right, public comment. I still do not see a member public, but if they want to wave their hand dramatically.
I see Mike. He's a member of the public here.
Mike, would you like to make any public comment on this item? All right, seeing no public comment, I will close that. Board comments. The only thing I will add is it could be right for an acronym, the subject line, so not having to say that long of a subject every time. Since I noticed it took quite a breath for me to do it, and I noticed in your assessment of it, I know acronyms are very government, but this may be an instance where it's worthwhile. But other than that, any board comment?
I'll move approval on items 1 and 2 as recommended by staff.
I will second.
Could we do roll call, please?
Director Avalon.
Aye.
Director Dennert.
Yes.
Director O'Brien.
Yes.
Vice Chair Freeman.
Yes.
Chair Gray.
Aye.
That motion carries with a unanimous vote.
Thank you. Thank you. That will take us to item 10, written communication.
Oh, pardon me for interrupting.
Yes.
A point of clarification on item, what was that, 9A?
9B?
No, 9A.
Oh.
The staff recommended that you extend the concession agreement, and you voted to follow the staff's recommendation, which is fine. But I was wondering if you guys had any idea of how long you wanted that extension to be.
2 years?
I just assumed that's something the staff would negotiate and bring back.
Yeah, sometimes when you're
I mean,
negotiating.
And that's fine as well, I just
Because
wanted
I'd
to
be
clarify.
picking a number out of the air for no particular reason.
Yeah, I think.
I would imagine it would be similar to what we've done before. Sometimes when you're negotiating, we're asking for certain things. They like to have a longer term up front to get their capital investment back. So
Sure.
I wouldn't see it as, it may be similar, like a 3-1-1 or a 2-1-1-1, something like that.
Sure.
But we'll have to talk to them about that as well and see how long we want to do it for. So.
Yeah, I think if partners have opinions on that, which I'm sure they will, I'm interested in hearing that. But yeah, so it sounds reasonable. Do we need to, is our comments good enough?
Oh, no, you've given clear direction,
Okay.
and your vote was fine, so
Okay.
no, you don't need to do anything else. I just wanted to make sure we had a clear direction.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Okay, that will take us to item 10, written communications of note. Any staff or board member?
Staff has none, Chair.
Hearing none from the board. That will take us to item 11, reports by board members. Director O'Brien, would you like to kick us off?
I will kick it off. We had the Historical Society meeting on August 7th, which was Monday. It was kind of a long meeting. There were a lot of maintenance items to go through, which we went through. Most of them were checking along, The Historical Society itself is looking for docents. So any of you have a little free time on your hands, get on down there. Or if you know someone who has free time in their hands, get on down there, and there's a training period, and you have to be knowledgeable, but they can take care of that. And the museum director position, they've got around 26 applications for the position. They're going to initially narrow it down to by 2/3 or so, and then interview the people that make the first cut and make a decision. So we'll be hearing more about that when it happens. Monday night, I went to the Simi Valley International City of Peace meeting, which was interesting. I've always been kind of like Robert Heinlein used to say, you can have peace and you can have freedom, but don't count having both at the same time. However, I'm glad I went because I was thinking, well, what good is what does it mean to be a peace city? Everybody wants world peace, but no, we don't have it. So I thought, well, if I was in charge and I was going to create world peace, where would I start? I would start educating children on how to resolve conflicts peacefully, stand up to bullying. That would be a good start. But okay, so if you are a peace city, then peace is like your central thing that you want to keep in mind. You will hopefully by example and by raising your children properly, teach them to be peaceful, which will mean that we have peace eventually, maybe not in our lifetimes, but eventually. So I like that. I'm going to keep going to their meetings. Next one, I'm going to be at the CSDA conference, so we'll be at that one. But anyway, it sounds promising. So, and third and final item is I started my ceramics class at the Senior Center. Those of you who qualify to take classes there, not all of you I know, but some of us. Get on down there and take some
4 years
classes.
away from the
Really
senior
fun.
games, apparently it's 50+, so.
You have to be 50.
stop.
You're not 50. You guys are at
44 years of going to the senior games.
Anyway, it was fun, and I'm looking forward to going next time. And I'm making stuff with clay. Cool. And that's it. That's all I have.
Vice Chair Freeman, would you like to go next?
I had the California Special Districts Legislative Committee, which went on for about 3.5 hours. Fortunately, it was on Zoom. You didn't have to go to Sacramento, which is a good thing. I'm doing a report, which I will get you a copy of, and that will go to Ventura County Special Districts folks too. So you'll get a copy of my report that goes to them. There's one thing I want to mention so that Wayne has a heads up. There's a bill that would make weed abatement a public works project, which would mean other regulations just for our weed abatement, and it means higher wages as well for the weed abatement. So, I don't know if it's gonna make it through the legislature, but it is there and I'm watching it, so I'll let you know what happens.
Director Alba, would you like to go next?
Sure, just a couple things. I used to spend a lot of time at Rancho Santa Susana Park, and then several months ago I tore my meniscus, so I haven't been out there as much, but I did go for a walk out there, and I visited the staff in summer, and everybody was there, and everybody was in a good mood, so definitely kudos to Laura and her staff out there. Ran into several maintenance workers, and I'm getting bad with names, but I believe it was Ken, is that right, in particular? He's out there, who I spoke to, and just an awesome attitude, proud of how he was out there doing Mother Earth's work, and so that was just a great visit. And then the second thing, I think everyone knows, I'm keeping an eye on the calendar. We're less than 60 days away from Friday the 13th, and I hope it doesn't take that long, but I'm eager to hear what the city is going to come up for us as far as getting us the land for the MX track.
Director Denner, would you like to go next?
Sure. Kate, you had mentioned that they're looking for docents. I know that they're a variety of ages, but they're looking for high school students to do it. High school students are obviously busy, but if we offered a scholarship saying, we're not paying you per the hour, but if you do this, at the end of it, you get a letter of recommendation and a small scholarship, I think we could recruit some kids, and I'd be willing to donate towards that. So if the Historical Society likes it, hit me up for a donation. And maybe some high school kids will say, oh, that'll look good on a college application. And I bet they'll have some fun doing it too. I attended a Rotary Club meeting, and State Assembly member Jackie Irwin happened to be there. And she had spoken about her legislative priorities, and she mentioned the keeping St. Valley is a priority in the budget and the work that she's done with us. She mentioned open space, and she mentioned the pool building, and I appreciated that. She also had comments that I agreed with about the importance of public safety, and a balanced approach, and I like that about her too. Last meeting, I believe it was, I had complained about Hummingbird Trail, that they blocked up the whole street, painting it red, and it's already fixed. Dan, do you know anything about that? The sidewalk being painted red and it being removed?
No, I understand that Dee Kavanaugh got involved in it, but I don't know much detail about that. I did see it was fixed and was happy about that.
So Dee Kavanaugh, if you're trying to fall asleep and so you're listening to our meeting, I appreciate you if you made it to the end, and that was a happy thing when I was just sitting there frustrated, and then I was on Facebook and someone already fixed it. They removed the paint from the sidewalk, the curb, so people could park there.
I would bet that it was a condition of the new project that was built there. That the developer was probably required to do that.
To remove it, yeah, you can see that. So I appreciate Dee Dee getting involved in working on that. And lastly, I wrote a letter to the Acorn about our MRCA, and the app is Our Malibu Beaches. There are beaches that are totally publicly accessible and legal to be on, when people are just finding ways to make it hard to find. It's been going on for decades. There's rules about it. And I'll give you an example. I went to Zuma Beach. I assume most of us have been there before. And I just went for a long walk. And you can walk to these other beaches. They're right there. And there's hundreds of people on them. But they don't want you to know where you can park. So the signs that were put up were removed. And there's hundreds of people that were on those beaches enjoying it, but there's other people that wouldn't know. There's more beaches to explore. So I appreciate our partners and them working on it.
You're all good?
That's it.
Okay. Dan, I want to do it off, but figured to let you know now. I'd be interested in hearing more about community emergency response, specifically the role our rangers play in the event of certain crises in our community. But that doesn't need to be talked about right now. I was speaking with some folks and organizations in Agora Hills, and I thought you might be specifically interested, Brian. I got several offers to do several tours of the wildlife crossing over the 101 prior to it's finishing. So in the next 6 months or so, I know I'm helping organize a few tours and thought use, and I know I already mentioned this to Dan, because it can tie into some of our projects. But if you wanted a tour of the facility, I know some of the construction, the architect and some of them were offering tours. And if there was another member of the board that had interest in that too, I could throw your name in there as well for one of the tours that I'm gonna help set up. So we'd be happy to do that. In terms of events, last week I was in Sacramento. It was hot, it was miserable, it was above 100 for almost every day I was there. And I'll just add, I've been to Sacramento many times in the last decade plus, and it was a little sad to see the state of downtown and around the Capitol. It was pretty shocking to see, actually. And I know they're doing construction in the park and all that, but the region itself, it's pretty shocking.
How so?
Most of the commercial retail, I don't want to say most, a significant number of the retail outlets are closed and boarded up, so there is no business there. There appear to be quite a number of unhoused, living in not great conditions, and I'm not sure how much help they're receiving, but throughout the streets. And generally, on evenings where you would expect people dining at restaurants and enjoying the outdoors, it was pretty much a ghost town for 4 straight nights. No one was eating out, no one was out there. And the constant recommendation from hotel staff and everybody who was local was don't go anywhere alone and don't stay out too late. Return as soon as possible. And just based off,
But enjoy your time.
But enjoy the time, but don't go alone and be very careful. Yeah, so it was disappointing, and hopefully, they can start to transform that area. But it's quite a difference from, I remember going as a high school student to tour the Capitol, and it's a completely different world now.
That's interesting because I walked from the one hotel to the other hotel about 9 o'clock at night, and the staff said, "Did you walk by yourself?" I said, "Yeah." "Well, no, you shouldn't do that."
Yeah.
Sobering.
I know for Conejo Valley, I don't know if they have, if we have the same need as Conejo Valley, but they have significant concerns over lack of crossing guards to escort kids into school on the morning. But so their community has an organized and coordinated effort between the park district, the school district, and the city to encourage kids to walk to school. And also October 4th is Walk to School Day, but they have a whole volunteer setup of people who will walk with kids to school to encourage that on a wider basis. I don't know if we have a similar concern or effort going on in Simi, but I figure I haven't heard it. But I figure if you could touch base with the school district to see if there's a joint community effort or something we could help with or help publicize, I'd also be happy to join our partners in something like that. And then the last one is just a shout out to the rec department and the classes going on. I have seen multiple times in the last week or two, people post on Facebook about the rec classes that they've joined and are signing up for, and the level of excitement that's going on in a lot of community groups on social media is quite high. And I figured I'd give a special shout out to some of the kids baking classes, which had significant support and a lot of people asking how they could sign up, when they could sign up, and all of that. So just want to say thank you to the staff who are working all of that, and that it's very noticeable in a lot of our community groups. That is all I have for board report. So that will take us to item 12, report by district manager.
Thank you, Chair, Board of Directors. The staff and I reviewed our year-end financials, which is June 30, because we're in a fiscal year. And just wanted to note that we, based on our budget projections, we did finish the year even better than we thought. So That was good news. The staff did a good job managing the budget last fiscal year, so that's great. The staff and I did meet on Oak Park Pickleball and talked about the scope of what we need to do in terms of the work to bring that item back to the board. Just want to let you know we're moving forward on that. I did want to note as it relates to that, there's news out that the Oak Agora High School tennis courts, which were available to the public, aren't going to be available to the public, which means less tennis court availability in that neck of the woods. So I did, Kate talked to some folks about, we had Eagle Scouts tonight, and I know you had reached out. I want to let you know we're going to work on that and see if we can get some more Eagle Scout projects done. The ASC school obviously started. It usually takes a little bit for our enrollment to solidify, so I'll report out to the board how our enrollment is doing over the next probably week or two. We usually get a number, and then the parents kind of ratchet it up a little bit. So it usually takes a couple weeks to get a good solid number. We're waiting for that. I did want to note emergency management. The county Office of Emergency Operations, the Sheriff's Department, is putting together a training session and also a discussion of funding with FEMA and OES. Ms. Pennington and I will be likely attending that on behalf of the district. Also, PERS has got some new data information out. I know that's important to the board in terms of managing that cost. I think Teresa and Miguel will be attending a PERS update session, which we can share what we learned there with the board. And then lastly, I will be at the CSDA conference on one I usually go to a year on 28th, 29th, and 30th. I think Kate and Elaine are going this year as well. So. Regarding upcoming board meetings, September 6th, we're hoping to have the equestrian agreement back based on the concept or the draft agreement for you, if we can get that work done. We expect to have the Dale Poe property donation. It's not the large ranch, but it's 140 acres on the agenda that evening. Soliciting bids for the pool deck project that needs to be done. We'll be asking you to go out to bid for that. And then I believe that is it for the 6th. As of now, things could be added. The final budget will be on September 20th, potentially bringing the golf review back on the 20th, depending on our discussion of that, and then a cleanup of the filling policy. It's looking like the pickleball would come back at the first meeting in October, based on the work that we need to do. So if anybody has any questions on the schedule, obviously I'm available to answer those. And that we have no committee meetings scheduled other than the regular historical group meeting, so, and the soccer foundation. So that concludes my report.
Dan, if pickleball might be coming back in October, does that mean we feel like there might be some progress with the joint use agreement with the school district?
We're going to talk to the school district and see if we can move that along, yes. I don't know if we'll have any resolution by the 4th, but we plan to have a conversation with them, yes.
I just want to reiterate on the PERS conversation. If at any point there's a belief that letter, advocacy, phone call, at least for myself, would be helpful, please do reach out. I want to reiterate that even if it's just some level of public pressure, not to continue to hike insane prices. I'm happy to be part of that public pressure.
All right, thank you.
Any other board comments, questions for the district manager? Okay. That will take us to item 13, closed session.
Yeah, Chair, if I could, before Brian reads the titles, we plan to do the 2 claims first, and then the staff, appropriate staff will leave or stay. And then, so we'll do the claims first, and then have a transition, and then start the evaluation.
All right. Shall I read?
Yes, please.
Okay. Item 13A, closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.95. The claimant is Vince Dolcich. The agency claimed against is the Rancho Senior Recreation and Park District. Item 13B, closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54956.95. The claimant is Gordon Taylor. And the agency claimed against is the Rancho Senior Recreation and Park District. And item 13C is a closed session pursuant to Government Code Section 54957, Public Employee Performance Evaluation, title District Manager.
And we may have reportable action, so.
Yes.
So with that, if I could ask the camera operators to shut down and put us in closed session.
Council, can you report us out?
Happy to do so. So on item 13A, the board unanimously decided to accept the claim. On item 13B, the board unanimously decided to accept the claim. There were no other reportable actions.
Thank you. That then takes us to item 14, adjournment. I adjourn this meeting at 11:36 p.m. Thank you. Everybody drive safe. Have a good evening.